It's been a long time coming. Over 2 years, in fact. 2 years since Ethereum first proposed a solution to the persistent scaling problems that plague the network. Some have given up hope. Others have resorted to mockery, but many more have been keenly awaiting the release of these much-touted features. And now it seems as if 2020 could indeed be the year that we see the first iterations of these, collectively known as Ethereum 2.0. My name is Guy, and in this video I'll be giving you exactly what you need to know about Ethereum 2.0, the most anticipated version 2 since Bad Boys 2. A few quick disclaimers before we kick off. As usual, I am not a financial advisor, so please consult yours before considering any investments, crypto or otherwise. Also, if you've landed here for the first time, the pleasure is all mine. If you're so inclined, please do subscribe and make that little bell chime. That way you'll get my latest reviews time after time. Okay, enough with the rhymes. Let's get this review going. To start off with, we have to very clearly define what Ethereum 1.0 is. Ethereum, in its current form, is a proof-of-work blockchain that allows users to build their own decentralized applications. More specifically, it is a smart contract platform that supports a generalized scripting language. This language is Solidity, and it is the language that the developers will use to build these smart contracts. The project was envisioned to be a global decentralized computer. This global decentralized supercomputer would execute anyone's code in exchange for a fee. This is called gas. The initial hope of Vitalik Buterin, the founder, was that it could be akin to a Google Play Store on the blockchain. Upload your decentralized app and use it anywhere in the world. Of course, that was the vision. As many will realize, putting such an ambitious vision into action is anything but easy. You see, Ethereum still relies on much of the same disciplines as traditional blockchains. While these were revolutionary for the time, they have also exhibited their limitations as Ethereum has struggled to scale. Indeed, this problem is not exclusive to Ethereum, as a number of other legacy blockchains have found scaling to be a problem. And it's not just scaling. It's scaling in a manner that still keeps the network secure and decentralized. Indeed, it's more of a trilemma than a singular problem. So, what are the main stumbling blocks to a secure and decentralized scaling solution? Well, first and foremost is the method for reaching consensus. Ethereum uses the proof-of-work ETH consensus mechanism to propagate blocks and confirm transactions. This means that Ethereum is similar to Bitcoin in that miners have to devote raw processing power to secure the network. Processing power that has an economic cost in the form of mining rigs and electricity. Now, this all worked well and good when these networks were relatively small with limited transactions. When Ethereum was first launched, there were only a few simple dApps that could be run with minimal processing power across a small collection of nodes. However, things have grown considerably since then, and so have the number of dApps and transactions. This has resulted in blockchain bloat that not only slows the network down considerably, but also makes gas costs skyrocket. We only need look at the CryptoKitties saga of late 2017, where simple Ethereum collectible tokens slowed the network to a crawl. Not exactly the global decentralized supercomputer that everyone was hoping for. There's also another complexity that is inherent with Ethereum's blockchain specifically, or decentralized networks more generally. Given that there is a singular main Ethereum network, all transactions and dApp computations have to be confirmed by all nodes on the network. Similar to the consensus point above, this may not have been an issue when the network was small and relatively centralized. However, as the network has grown, so too have the number of nodes. Take a look at this map. There are over 7,000 Ethereum full nodes all around the world. Each and every one of these nodes has to store the entire Ethereum blockchain, and they all have to agree on the state of the said chain at any point in time. If you have a simple dApp that you want to run on the network, all of these nodes will have to agree before the dApp can compute. So, not very efficient. Of course, all of these problems have been known, and the Ethereum developers have long said that the network needs important updates to advance. And one of the most important updates that was proposed was a change in the consensus mechanism. So, let's now take a look at that. It's named the Casper Proof-of-Stake protocol, and the Ethereum devs have been aiming for this consensus protocol for quite some time. Now, many may already be fully aware of what Proof-of-Stake or POS is, but here is a 30-second rundown. Essentially, with Proof-of-Stake, the miners are called validators. Validators propose new blocks to add to the chain and validate new transactions through a voting process. These validators will lock up a certain portion of crypto in order to partake in the ecosystem. They are staking their cryptocurrency in order to secure the network and earn staking returns. So, unlike with proof of work, where the economic cost of participation is electricity and capital, with POS the cost is the crypto staked or locked up. It also aligns incentives of the validators as they have a direct stake in the general health and security of the network. Block rewards are proportional to the amount of crypto staked. Those that stake earn more, but also have more at risk. Proof of stake is not a new concept. It was proposed as far back as 2011 on Bitcoin Talk. It's also being used by a number of blockchains currently. These also include variants of it like delegated proof of stake, DPoS, which is used by the likes of EOS and NEO. Anyways, the benefit of proof of stake, and the reason Ethereum wants to move to it, is because it is much more scalable. You don't have to rely on power-hungry mining rigs in order to reach consensus on the network. It also means that transactions can be processed that much more quickly. Now, the Ethereum devs have been working towards proof of stake since 2017. What was initially proposed was a hybrid proof of stake, proof of work consensus mechanism called, quote, Casper the Friendly Finality Gadget. Shout out to Vitalik on that quirky name. That has since evolved, and now what is being proposed is a transitory blockchain that has been called the Beacon Chain. So let's spend a few moments talking about that, shall we? The Beacon Chain will be central to Ethereum 2.0, as it will introduce the proof-of-stake consensus method. It will run in parallel to the main Ethereum proof-of-work chain, and it is phase 0 for the rollout of the complete 2.0 network. So you can think of the Beacon Chain as a sort of staging ground that will enable POS to be fully tested before being integrated into the main chain. It will also start out with the bare bones functionality and won't include smart contracts or accounts. Anyways, the main responsibility of this Beacon Chain is to maintain a set of validators for proof-of-stake consensus that propose and validate new blocks to add to the chain. These validators will have to stake 32 ETH to join the ranks. The Beacon Chain also randomly selects committees of validators to vote on which blocks to include in the chain. It will also use a new ether called ETH2, which will serve as the new asset for the validators. This new ETH asset can either be earned by the validators, or it could be converted from traditional ETH through a smart contract. Okay, so that is phase 0, the starting point for Ethereum 2.0. The first salvo in an attack on the scalability problem. But what is phase 1? Well, it directly addresses the other roadblock to scaling I mentioned above. And this is through a concept called sharding. So let's take a look at that now. Like proof of stake, blockchain sharding has been of major development focus by the Ethereum developers. The exact mechanics of what sharding is are beyond the scope of this video. I've linked to some handy guides below if you want to go under the cover. But to give you a simple overview, sharding is a form of database partitioning. Essentially, breaking the database up into smaller, more manageable segments. It's been used in traditional database systems for a number of years and is a method that helps reduce response times of these databases. In other words, helps them scale. Now, let us not forget that at its core, a blockchain is just a large distributed database. So one can apply similar techniques to the blockchain. If we were to apply sharding to the blockchain, it would mean breaking it up into individual segments called shards. Each of these shards would operate as their own blockchains and would hold unique smart contracts and account balances. These shards would also have their own nodes assigned to them in order to verify transactions within the shards. So you see where I'm going with this. By breaking up a blockchain into a number of different shards, you spread the processing power and transaction capability evenly through all the nodes. In the context of Ethereum, this means that dApps do not need to be run on every node on the network. They can be computed in separate shards and hence won't be impacted by bloat in other sections of the blockchain. More specifically, parallel computing. Pretty cool, right? I should also point out that Ethereum is not the only project that is hot for sharding. There are others, like Zilliqa, for example, that have implemented their own solutions. Back to the roadmap though. Phase 1 of Ethereum 2.0 will implement these shard chains. They will deploy 64 of these with the option of adding more over time. Phase 1 will be introduced on top of the beacon chain and will be verified by a set of validators that are randomly assigned by the beacon chain. A shard's validators only have to verify transactions on the shard that they're assigned. It's also important to point out that Phase 1 sharding does not specify shard chain execution or account balances. The Ethereum developers have said it is more of a trial run to test out the sharding structure before attempting to use it to scale. And using it to scale is the final stage of the Ethereum 2.0 rollout, and this is the state execution. In Phase 2, the functionality of the entire system will come together. The shard chains will move from the simple data structure that they were in Phase 1 to a structured chain state with smart contract functionality. Each of these shards will also manage their own virtual machine, which are based on what Ethereum have called EWASM. Essentially an Ethereum variant of the WebAssembly. More info in the docs below. So within each of these shard chains will exist a virtual machine that will increase the parallel computational power of the network as a whole. Oh, another thing that's pretty cool about this is that it will enable unique execution environments within each shard. What does that mean? Well, it means that developers can structure the context or environment in which their smart contracts and code are run. This opens up a whole host of functionality that you don't have with a homogeneous execution environment. Okay, so this Ethereum 2.0 roadmap seems great on paper, but where the hell are we in the ever-stretched timeline? Well, for those like me that have followed the Ethereum project, these updates have been a long time coming. Of course, that is to be expected. One cannot overhaul a cryptocurrency with a $24 billion market cap by pushing a few code updates. There was a lot of groundwork that had to be laid before 2.0 could even be considered. These included a number of Ethereum improvement proposals, or EIPs, that were pushed in updates including Constantinople, Istanbul, and St. Petersburg. The latest of these updates was the Muir Glacier, which took place at the beginning of the year with another hard fork. This update was significant as it delayed Ethereum's difficulty bomb by 4 million blocks. This means that the bomb is not expected to go off for a few years, long after Ethereum 2.0 has launched. So then, with the ground laid out and the roadmap paved, when can we see a takeoff for Ethereum 2.0? Well, according to a recent AMA on Reddit, ETH 2.0 is not expected to launch in its entirety in the first half of 2020. This may come as a disappointment to some who are hoping to see a partial launch by January of this year. That should not be too much of an upset though. Firstly, we should all be in favour of development robustness. Rolling out an update like this is complex and requires a hell of a lot of coordination and planning. And secondly, the developers are confident that Phase 0 will launch in 2020. How confident, you ask? Well, according to Ethereum researcher Justin Drake, quote, "I have 95% confidence we will launch in 2020. He also went on to say that Phase 0 and Phase 1 are respectively 99 and 90% complete. So if we were to cautiously take Justin at his word, the timeline is set. Okay, I know what you're thinking. But Guy, enough with the foreplay. What the hell does this mean for price? Well, if you've been following the markets recently, it appears as if things are already looking up. ETH broke through that important $200 psychological barrier, a barrier that it was not able to breach for over 4 months. Indeed, there is a general sense of optimism for the project across the market. It's been gaining not just in USD terms, but also against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Many people are extremely enthusiastic about the potential of DeFi and how Ethereum 2.0 could supercharge this sector. Indeed, investors are talking with their money. There is over $1 billion in Ethereum that's locked up in DeFi for the first time ever. Oh, and while we're on the topic of DeFi, I recently did a video exclusively on the topic, so check it out right here, if you want my thoughts on that. Back to ETH though, the upgrade to 2.0 also brings with it the ability to stake. Users with over 32 ETH could eventually start earning a staking return. Now, the exact rewards are just estimates right now, but the consensus seems to be about 5 to 6%. Now, while there are other blockchains that have higher staking returns, these ain't Ethereum. Remember, when you are staking, you are also taking a view on the value of the collateral staked. Either way, what sort of interest rates are you getting on your bank account right now? Here in the UK, banks like HSBC are offering you a sky-high 2% if you stick your quid in their coffers. Oh, but you have to be comfortable parking that cash for 3 years. Am I advocating crypto staking instead of a traditional bank account? No, and neither would your financial advisor. But I am saying that Ethereum 2.0 staking would provide ETH hodlers a traditional return stream that they did not have previously. Anyways, bringing this back to price, if there is more demand for Ethereum in order to stake, it could likely lead to an uplift in price. You also have to consider what's going on in the broader cryptocurrency markets. Things appear to be quite bullish as Bitcoin races towards that much touted halving. As they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. Positive crypto tides seem to be coming ashore. And moreover, all that I've mentioned is mostly around sentiment. You also have to consider the impact that extensive adoption of the Ethereum blockchain could have on the markets. If Ethereum 2.0 lives up to its promise, more developers will build dApps on it. More companies will integrate with it. Greater interoperability could result. Over the long run, as the utility of Ethereum increases, so too could demand. If this demand exceeds the rate of coin inflation, then you're likely to see an uplift in price. All important points that could be debated ad nauseum. I've said a lot in this piece, so I think it's about time that I began to wrap things up. So here are some of my final thoughts on Ethereum 2.0. Firstly, I've been just as enthusiastic for its launch as most others in the Ethereum ecosystem. It's been known for a number of years now that the limitations that came with proof of work needed to be overcome. By progressing the Ethereum blockchain to proof of stake, the project is moving the needle in a big way. Moreover, proof of stake will be great for the environment as well. Now, I'm no Greta Thunberg, but it's quite clear that proof of work mining is ecologically taxing. Already, the energy consumption needed to power Bitcoin exceeds that of many countries. You then also have the benefits that will be rolled out with the release of Sharding. It will lay the groundwork for real parallel computing across a distributed network of thousands of nodes. Essentially, it will help Ethereum realize its goals of being the world's decentralized supercomputer. It's my hope that proof of stake and sharding, together with other updates in 2.0, will help power Ethereum scaling. Scaling that will be achieved without compromising on those other two legs of decentralization and security. Solving the proverbial trilemma, if you will. And of course, I'm looking forward to the impact this could have on the ETH markets. While the market has already started pricing things in, it's my view that the long-term price follows adoption and innovation. One only need look at the performance of some of the companies that emerged from the rubble of the dot-com bubble. Could Ethereum be a Google or Amazon Phoenix ready to jump on that rocket to the moon? I leave you to be the judge of that. And that, my friends, is my video on Ethereum 2.0. But there is one critical thing left to do. Get your input too. So, what are your thoughts on updates? Are you looking forward to proof of stake? Hit me up in the comments. And lastly, if this video was vaguely helpful, please share the love. Tap that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Your support keeps me going. While I have you, I need to level with you. There's a lot that I could have included in this video that I just did not have the time to cover. That is exactly why I have my weekly newsletter. This is a great way for you to keep up to date with my latest thoughts on the market. I also share some interesting topics and coins that you may not have heard of. Keen? It's really pretty straightforward. ping over your email in the below sign up form. I'm working on my next newsletter as we speak. Take care, crypto fam.